So when we begin this whole process of taking CAD files and essentially making them, viable to import into Rhino, the first thing you're going to notice is, I would assume all of you probably have this base file, which is pretty much the nuts and bolts of the entire, area in Calgary. The big thing here is we want to really start by just paring all of this down, because this is way too much information, and essentially the project scope for this is really just this little space in here, if you can all see that, hopefully with my cursor. So if essentially the first thing that we're going to do here is, there's so many layers in here that we don't need. There's tons of lines we don't need. So we're just going to start by cleaning all this up. So I'm sure a lot of you might be familiar with the select function by now, but essentially I'm just going to click, just start grabbing big swaths of this and blowing all this stuff out, because this is a lot more than we need, and we want to keep this file nice and simple and tidy as we begin. All right, see, this is already looking. And again, the whole reason that we're going to do this is just because, the less crazy lines and that sort of thing that we have to import into Rhino, just the smoother this whole process is going to be. So this phase is really all just about cleaning up this area that we have in here. Really, the big important parts of this is really just going to be the parking lot, the adjacent building. A little bit of context, like we'll keep this block, we can keep a little bit of this one, and obviously, waterfront, but we don't need to keep too many other things. So that's where we can really take away big swaths of information here. Okay, so I've jumped ahead a little bit here, and now right off the bat, this looks way cleaner. There's way less information here that Rhino has to process. It's just generally, it's a lot simpler and more pared down. But there's still, when you look in here, you see topo elevation points, you see lots of pieces of terrain, little, bits of information that we don't really need right now. So what we're going to do is, from here, I'm going to show you a tool that's really good for just wiping out any layers that we don't need. So I'm going to show you right now the layer delete tool. So the layer delete tool is very, very easy to use. All you're going to do is, like, whenever you type anything, you can go down to the cursor here, or to the physically type if you want, or you can just be, have your cursor out in the open and just start typing lay del. That's Laydel, lay, and essentially that activates the layer delete. Then you're going to hit enter. Then it's going to ask you select objects on layer to delete. Great. So that's what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to curse over to anything we don't need. Things like this, the topo points, elevations, that's all just stuff that we don't need right now. So we're going to click on anything that we decide we don't want, any additional pieces of information like this. And the whole idea here is, what we want to keep is, we definitely want to keep all the building outlines, the street edges, that sort of thing. All that is good information for us to have. But the things we don't need as much, like, just these additional values, these are all things that can go, because this is just going to really clog up our file. So here I am, just removing any extra layers that I for sure don't think I need. We just want to keep it to the building outlines, the street edges, that kind of thing. Area tags like this. So as you can see, now we've pared back this drawing and made it a lot simpler. We've deleted a bunch of layers that we don't need right now. So because the layer delete, laydel, is still selected, what we're now going to do is we're going to hit enter, and it's going to ask us, do we wish to continue? Now, if we say no, it's going to, if we say no, all of these things that we just deleted are automatically going to come back. So we have to make sure that we hit yes. Now, to hit yes, I think you can either click it manually, or you can just hit the Y key, and AutoCAD knows that's you responding yes. So Y, enter, and beautiful. All that stuff is gone now. So we've just pared down this drawing a whole bunch. Now, again, because we're only really focusing on this area in here, a bit of the the terrain facing the river, we can continue here to delete out any extra pieces that we really don't need. So here I am just deleting any extra lines that might be just unnecessary information at this stage, like floating lines like this, things like that that aren't really helping us. All those things can go away right now. And this is where we're just doing little selects. And at this point, it's like little eraser work. We're just cleaning up little bits and pieces. Details like where the sidewalk line breaks are. I mean, those lines are good, but they're not for the scope of this project, which is more of a solid modeling exercise. They're just not really helping us as much. So things like that, additional lines over here, that's all just stuff that we don't really need as much right now, especially when the focus is so heavily on this area here. So now already what we have now is so much cleaner than what we started with earlier. So this is essentially going to get us to a stage where now if we tried to import this into Rhino, it's going to have a way easier time than if we were trying to import that massive CAD file from earlier. So once we're at this stage, what we're going to do is we're going to save all this. So I've got this saved as Rhino import file, just so that, you know, I can remember which one, just so I can remember what I saved this as. Sure. So now this is where we're going to flip over to Rhino. Now, what I'm going to personally suggest that we start with is because we were just looking at our plan view, since we were just looking at our CAD file in plan view, what we're going to try doing here is we're going to try importing into plan view. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with there's 4 windows here. We're going to go with, and just to select through them, you just click front, but for now we're going to click into the top window. Great. So now what we're going to try doing is we're going to import everything we just did in CAD in, and here's how we're going to do it. So file, import. This is where I saved it. So you can see this is what we just saved. So Rhino import file. We're going to select that. We're going to go open, model units and layout units. So we're going to make sure that these are matching, because obviously it's a lot more ideal if we're all working in one consistent unit. So beautiful. The model units and layout units, both in meters. Now we're going to go OK. Now, it did a very reasonable thing here, which was it imported it based on the where the base point would have been for the CAD file. Now, so you can see that everything we just imported, here's obviously like kind of the center of our space, but it just imported it way over here. Now, when we look at this though, we see this is good. These are all the lines that we just wanted to bring in. So what we're going to do is I'm going to quickly show you how to select. We'll bring this into the middle of our workspace, you know, this nice gridded area here. And then we'll have a good CAD file to start working on this project from. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click and hold, and that's going to drag a nice selecting box. Perfect. We're going to grab him. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go, now Rhino is very similar to CAD in some ways, in the sense that like using commands is really like a key element of how it operates. So what we're going to do is we're going to type on the M key. That's going to be for move. So M, and you can see the command that comes up there. M-O, you can spell it all the way out, even though move is the one it automatically defaults to for Rhino. We're going to hit enter. We're going to grab him. Now, the way Rhino works too is it's going to always ask us to pick a point for where we want to move. So you can really pick anywhere in here. That's just going to be like the base point that we move from. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to pick the middle here. We're going to select. And then look at that. We don't even have to click and drag. We just click once, and that's going to let us move this all around. We can move this over to our workspace. So really quickly, I'm just going to do that one more time here. So I'm going to deselect. So I'm going to select, click and drag, selects everything. Then we're going to type in the move command, enter. We're going to select a point in the middle here. Just click once. Let's us move it around. And we're going to slide this right to the middle of our work site. Great. Now, obviously this looks like a big mess right now, but we're going to turn this into something that is essentially going to be what we build our model with.